enabling the organization. And in many cases, I would probably try to figure out how does this apply to me. And what I'm going to do is switch it off a little bit. So when we start talking about hybrid cloud and for those knowledge with Sprint, that they with regard to a rate correction. And what we're starting to see now is that issue. And in particular, it's definitely towards a hybrid cloud model. And so from a skills perspective and how do we enable the organization, it's going to be real important that people get aligned with regard to how do you help build your skill footprint and what we do for the client to help position in that kind of an environment. So I'm going to give you some connections here shortly. But before I do that, I want to share a little bit what's happening from an account perspective for Sprint, as well as the leadership roles. So we'll send some org charts later, so JD, you can share it with the team. But at a GBS and an integrated account level perspective, you probably remember a gentleman named Rich Stomp, and he was the managing director responsible for Sprint. And this year they decided to integrate the accounts between Sprint and T-Mobile. And so this is real important in the fact that what we're trying to do is make sure that we've got a consistent leadership model, as well as when we start communicating strategy and direction that we're integrating the two accounts. Specifically, you guys know, right now they're in the middle of a merger. They're waiting for the Department of Justice approval. But once that happens, then we want to act as an IBM as a single delivery arm to both those entities. So hopefully that makes sense to everyone. The key thing underneath that is you probably remember a gentleman named Ed Davis. And he's the overall lead officer for GBS. And within that accountability, he's got responsibility not only, I'll call it the full Horizon 1 pyramid. Remember the pyramid last year? And you had digital strategy at the top of it, and then you had CPS, right? We talked a lot to Scott Rice when he came last year around cognitive process services. And then obviously where we are, which is CAI, and with pretty much what all of you guys support today in Sprint. So the good news is that Brad has expanded his team significantly. And he now has leadership roles, partners, and associate partners that are supporting that entire spectrum. And so what does it mean to us from a CAI perspective? As we continue to sell those services, we expand our footprint area, there's typically a lot of support, development effort, and integration effort that we're hoping to take up with as part of those initiatives. So from a Brad Davis perspective, if you see his new work, you're going to see a lot of new names. You'll see names like John Daly, who's responsible for the digital strategy work. You'll see David Chen, who actually supports the Salesforce work in T-Mobile, but he's now taking on a lot of the cognitive process services entities. And Laura Letter, which I think came actually one time to present to you guys with regard to how we're strategically positioning our services in the comm sector. So this is all important. I saw growth on your chart, right? And Eric put a number up there talking about how we're trying to expand and grow globally, but also in particular the process accounts. So these are going to be some key enablers for us to go build that pipeline going forward. Now, 1 second. Let me turn on my phone. Okay. Let me get down a little bit lower level from an account perspective. I talked a little bit about Scott Rice, who's the CIO, and joined us for a kickoff meeting about, I guess it's been 6 weeks ago. Well, what we asked him in particular was, where is he going? What's happening with Sprint this year? And as you can imagine, he talked a lot about merger and acquisition. And the majority of those executives on the Sprint side are working with the T-Mobile people and what they call these lockdown war room kind of things. And they're going through basically what they call app rationalization, where they decide which platforms are going to integrate into other platforms, which ones do they merge, and how do they manage that integration work that's going to be coming down the road. So from Scott Wright's perspective, that's really his number one focus. But the key areas that he did talk about, and we're starting to see, and we continue to see traction along, is around his digital strategy. So we've got some work, as you guys are aware of, in the .com space and up in the front end and under Roy and Rico, right, his organization. But what we're also going to see is continued focus around trying to utilize which one of those platforms would be the in-state platform. And so we're still trying to get insight from the client, but the expectation is that there will be certain systems that are, I'll call them more holistic in nature. So if you think about the products and services that Sprint offers today relative to T-Mobile, the portfolio is a much more complex portfolio, and typically when these types of mergers and acquisitions happen, they go with more of the complex platform. So I would be remiss to think that the Sprint.com, RMS, and a lot of the platforms that we support are not part of the in-state portfolio going forward, which is a good thing for all of us. The other area that he talked about was around digital transformation, which kind of ties to that omni-channel experience and supporting the stores and all the different channels. But what's going to be also important is that he said around security and automation. And I think already there's some initiatives underway where we're getting our footing in. I think you guys were around last year when I talked about, where we're trying to build further up that horizon one stack into the cognitive process services. And one area was around, at that time, Pega. And I think there were some discussions around Pega versus Automation Anywhere. And as JD knows, we're trying to build our footprint in that area in particular by building out skills in the automation space as well. The last one is going to be in security. And this is one area that we really haven't done a lot of work, specifically at the application level, where we provided basically our overlay of IBM security services, but we now have a dedicated Laura Craig, who's working across not only Sprint but also T-Mobile to bring in those types of services and practices into our organization. But all of these areas, if you think about it, right, are all enablers for what we do today, right? We support the applications and the development and the maintenance of those solutions. And so the more solutions that we are involved in, obviously that's going to basically correlate to growth in both the organizations and our organization in particular. To take it one level down, and I saw a lot of stuff about AWS and certification on some of the earlier charts. Don and I, who I don't think he was able to join today, he's in some other critical meetings this morning, so I'll pass on just thanks to you guys as well. But Don and I both agreed that we need to start figuring out what do we do at an account level in particular to start being prepped for this hybrid world of cloud. And so you're already starting to see probably some initiatives around Cloud Innovate and the process, specifically the garage method that drives that entire process framework. So as that starts coming out to you guys and you have opportunities, start thinking about what you're doing from a Think 40 perspective, please take time to think about the IBM Garage, the Cloud Innovate, and the whole toolkit that goes with that framework. Because that's not only the framework that is going to support growth across all those other accounts that I saw on Eric's chart, but it's also what we're positioning strategically with T-Mobile from a delivery perspective. Okay? The other piece is